David Yost's Power Rangers Quantum Continuum, and all the Rangers are back for the Netflix's 30th season. Next up on Just the Talk, so let's talk about it. And welcome to the Flicks, Picks, and the Nitpicks, and I am your humble host, 0718, and we're going to get right into David Yost, the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Blue Ranger is back, and he is going to, well, actually he's written in process of writing a season of Power Rangers called Power Rangers Quantum Continuum. And the thing about it is, at least that's being reported and around the news around the water cooler, is this is going to be a more mature Power Rangers episode or season that he's writing. And I think this is supposedly a labor of love, so it seems to give a good end cap to the Power Rangers story. And I'm definitely gonna follow this for a lot of reasons that I'm not sure if I'll disclose at the end of this, but we'll definitely do a lot of discussion on it. And shout out to David Yost for doing that, because as a kid that grew up on Power Rangers and only really cared more about the original seasons, the original first seasons from Mighty Morphin to Zeo, and I did like some of the seasons. I think In Space was cool. I didn't really watch In Space like that. I did like the season when Jason David Frank came back and he did the I forgot the name of the Power Rangers when they came back as dinosaurs, and he played the Black Ranger. I did like that season because I watched that, and I also watched the SPD, which I'm not gonna lie, I really did enjoy SPD. That was a cool time. I did enjoy it, but I'm still all about the Mighty Morphin, the original team. And it was a shame to lose the 3 original castmates to get swapped out, which started off a tradition of swapping out the Power Rangers. And I never really liked how it was done. Obviously, there was things behind the scenes in terms of not getting paid the appropriate amount of money for what they were bringing to the franchise and them starting it, and that they made so much more money than was anticipated, to the point where it actually had a chokehold on pop culture for like a year or so. I mean, well, the year it exploded, and then even longer because it stood around for a long time, and there was a lot of merch for the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, to the point where they actually greenlit a film. And if you ask me, I think what hindered the film also was losing 3 of their major Rangers. In particular, the Red Ranger, which was the leader, which was a big fan favorite for a lot of people. Not me. Zach was my favorite. The Black Ranger was my favorite Ranger. And it wasn't because he was black either, but it was also because he was black. And it had nothing to do with his skin tone. To be honest, I actually liked the black suit better when I first seen the Power Rangers. I just thought the black suit would just look fly. And I actually, in the beginning, thought he was the leader. This is before he took his helmet off, any of that. I didn't even know who it was. I just saw the Power Rangers, and I thought the Black Ranger was the leader because I was thinking about Voltron and the Black Lion being the leader. But at the same time, I forgot at the time that even though it was the Black Lion was the leader of the Power Ranger, the Voltron, Keith wore a red suit. I forgot about that. I was young when I used to watch Voltron. I loved Voltron growing up. So my strongest memory was always the Lions, and because that's all I had, the toy. You feel me? So when I seen Power Rangers, I just immediately thought that the Black Ranger was the leader. And the funny thing is, when I watched the first episode, I realized he wasn't, but it was the best suit. I'm a person that likes swords over anything, but for some reason that battle axe was kind of tough because he ain't need nobody's shit to make no gun. He could turn that shit to can. I don't need none of y'all to hold this shit. You feel me? He was just a dope character. And then when you got to know that character, Zach, I just thought he was a cool character. He was the hip hop kid. You know what I mean? For all intents and purposes, he kind of lined up with me very well in terms of like, quote unquote, and I hate to use the word representation, but at the time as a kid, I never really cared about people representing me in my personal aesthetics per se, because that was never something growing up that was even optionable. But what I would find representation is was core beliefs that stood out to me. So I found quote unquote representation, since that's what the new jacks are using, an overly used buzzword, which I'm gonna probably stop using right now because I get tired of it. But was like Leonardo, and when it came to Ninja Turtles, he was the guy that really was into being a ninja. Like, he really prioritized that. He always wanted to be better. He wanted to be a better leader, and he felt the weight of responsibility for him and his brothers, and he didn't disrespect it. He really took it very seriously. And I'm one of those people that you give me something that I'm impassioned about, that I want to, like, I will take it very seriously. You know what I mean? And I will be very impassioned about it. So I've always found, you know what I mean, those are the type of qualities I ended up gravitating towards with a lot of characters. But for me, what stood out with Zack was his personality now as a character. But also, like I said, I really liked the costume. I thought the costume was dope. He had the power cannon. He had the battle axe. He was just dope. And I felt like he didn't get enough shine. I mean, but a lot of people didn't get enough shine. Like, in the beginning, everybody got a little bit more shine, a little bit. But I kind of wish they did more, gave him like a little bit more plots in terms of things to do. But I like I said, I was never surprised because the Red Ranger was the leader, so you expected that. And then when the Green Ranger came, then he was just the outlier, the lone wolf that everybody even liked because he had the gold shield and everything. He was slightly different than everyone else, and he was able to take on all of the Rangers. So to see that as a kid and grow up with it was just like dope. So for me to see the revisited, because when they took away the three, like the red, the black, and the yellow, there was this deep void in the series, and you could feel it. You know, they all had such a wonderful chemistry. And I'm not to say that the other three that came in weren't cool. They were serviceable, and I really liked Adam, but not as my black Mighty Morphin Ranger with the original. They felt a little bit more in place when they went to Zeo. A little bit more, because Zeo was a little different now. We moved on from Power Rangers, and I think they started to, with a new suit, new costume, they imprinted more onto those superhero characteristics a lot better than they did with Mighty Morphin. Especially since you didn't change all the stunt people in the suits. So you could tell by body chemistry, it still looked like you was looking at Zack and the Red Ranger, because even the Red Ranger's body double or the suit double was a lot heavier than Rocky, so it just always looked out of place. It just looked like you just used their voices over them and veneered them, as opposed to totally starting a new team where there could be own their characters, own their Rangers. You know what I mean? Because Rocky never assumed Red Ranger to me the way it would have made sense. At that time, they could have just shifted Billy over to Red. I would even take in Kimberly, but there was no way to do that with the Sentai footage, even though at that point in the later years, they was using a lot more American footage than they were using Sentai, but still they were using the Sentai footage. So it's hard to even make Amy Jo Johnson the Red Ranger. You know, but it would have made more sense than the other three that came in, which came off a lot younger, not only in experience as Rangers, but they just seemed younger. And I wouldn't be surprised if they legitimately were younger than everyone else. That being said, to see David Yost, and I'm gonna, for all intents and purposes, I'm gonna probably call him Billy a few times because that's how I know him, Billy. As a Blue Ranger, he wanted to like bring a nice bow tie to all the Rangers and bring, even though and rest in peace, Tui, she's no longer with us. She passed away in the early 2000s due to a car accident. And they said they wanted to bring someone in to replace her as her daughter, which I think is dope. And we're going to get into that a little bit, maybe down the line, because I'm going to do a lot more watching of this for you Ranger Nation people, because I'm very well aware of you, so you can come and check me out here. I'm going to do a couple of with these, because I actually am a fan of the Power Rangers franchise, in particular Mighty Morphin and Zeo. But mostly Mighty Morphin, but definitely Zeo. I loved Zeo. I thought Zeo was real dope. to see him revisit it and kind of give them a sign off that they never got a chance to get when they were written out of the series, and they gave that lame plot line to go to a peace conference. It was whack. It was weak sauce. Those episodes, you could totally tell there was a void because it was reusing a lot of stock footage. It was a shame, especially when you were a kid, to see your favorite Power Ranger no longer there. And then when they go to the Boom Studio comics, or any type of revisiting from Mighty Morphin, it's always around JDF, Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger. And I got tired of that shit. Because how many times will we go back to the well to always keep saying, oh, he's the greatest Ranger? I'm tired of that. Like, then you give no upward mobility for any other possible Rangers to actually get some sort of development, especially from your original group. Now, they've been going out of their way to try to bring back the Red Ranger to level him up to Green Ranger status. And you can see that in books and fandom, they trying to make amalgamations of him as the Gold Ranger to the Red Ranger, and I mean, I'll be honest with you, even though I get it, I wish they did more with Zach, because if you read Boom Studios, and I didn't read all the, actually, I'll be real with you, I followed a channel where this dude was damn near breaking down every comic. I bought a couple comics. I'm not going to say I never bought any of the comics. But from Shattered Grid, it always seemed like Zach was whatever he needed to be to elevate anybody else around him. He was so inconsistent. And for me, him being my favorite character, I was just tired of him getting, like, put to the side. Like, it was even to the point when they made their fathers, the Red Ranger's father was a direct homage to the actor that played him, also St. John, or St. James, also St. John, I think, the Red Ranger. But when they showed Zach, how Zach's dad had to be a balding, big belly dude. Like, why Zach had to have that goofy looking dude as his father? Like, why? Especially when Zach's, to be honest, if you want to be real, Austin gained a lot more weight. Zach looks the same. You couldn't have drawn Zach and pay homage to him. It always seems like top billing goes to the Green Ranger and the Red Ranger. Even when the Black Ranger became the leader of the coin list, he had no powers. Trini was able to power the black dragon suit and make that a suit, which I liked. Everybody else got leveled up, but Zach, nothing. Nothing. He never gains a new suit. How you the leader of the coin list, but everybody cared more about Draken, and they gave more storyline to Kimberly, and Zach got nothing. Like, he didn't get developed. You couldn't even follow the coin list and give him top billing as the leader of the coin list. You would have done that for Jason, because somehow Jason popped back up at the end. So for me, again, it just was like, you keep fucking these characters over. So I'm hoping that Billy or David Yost would actually write him to his credit. He was the original second command, and he got no billing as if he was one. Only in namesake. In the book, he never got no real arc. And anytime they revisit him, they either made him the joke of the group, and you saw very little semblance of what he was in the actual series. You know, at least from all the books that I was following up on, that I've seen that this guy was reading, and what I've read. You know, I mean, sometimes they don't over dumb them down. I'm not gonna lie, because there's some books I've actually read where they didn't dumb him down, but they don't give him a personal arc either. And even in the books, when they hinted that Zach and Trini had a romance, they had another book where they wanted to say, oh, but Jason kissed her first, and they had a thing, but he didn't want to get with her, and it was just corny. It was just like, well, you've already wrote the book and said that Zach and Trini had a thing going, because obviously this was the time during where they were away, and I think Kimberly had left and they had to come back as Rangers again to help. They had a separate story and they had to come back as Rangers again in the book. So they made it look like Trini and Zach was together. Why didn't you just keep that going? Nah, we just had to go back and say, well, let's just say Jason had a relationship, could have had her first. And it was like, why? You know, I just don't like it when books go out of their way to show that they are in favor of one character out the team more than anyone else. You know what I mean? To the detriment of other characters. It gets kind of boring now at that point. Like, give other people arcs. Give other people growth arcs. You know what I mean? Like, I love what they did with Kimberly in Boom Studios. I really did enjoy that because it gave her more to do. I like the fact that Trini kind of became like the Billy and built her, took the fragments of the Black Dragon and built a suit out of it. I like that. Zach, he was just leader of the Coinless with no powers, and there was no personal arc for him other than this weird arc about telling that he could have been the Green Ranger beforehand. And that whole little arc was weird as hell when you read the book, because it was like, alright, they came to him first before they went to Tommy. Makes sense that you would go to the second command to be your evil Green Ranger first. But then, if he was good enough to be the evil Green Ranger first, then why wouldn't in the books? Then why don't you build him up to show that there was a reason why Rita would have went to him? And if he's the leader of the Coinless, give him a story arc that makes sense to that. There was just nothing interesting about him. I mean, I would have rather if you would have just said that him and Trini was in a relationship, at least to give him something else other than just being the leader of the Coinless with no powers, but we're so focused on Draken because he's the greatest Ranger that ever existed. You know what I'm saying? It just always seems like if he's the leader, it's by default because we don't have Jason. And it's never to build the character up. Even the fact that they said, don't tell the team that you could have been the Green Ranger first, that she tempted you first. And the only reason why they did that, because in the series, it never was brought up, so you needed that to be the secret. But it was like a secret that never needed to be held, because even in the book, when he meets his other self, Zach meets his other self, Zach's other self says, tell the team that, you know what I mean, that they came to you first. And it was like, well, all right, he held this secret for what? But again, like I said, that's the book. For this to be the series now where they want to, and I know I ran off on a tangent because I'm kind of familiar with the comic book, the Boom Studios book. Check it out. It's actually cool for those that want to revisit that time and actually build out from those characters that were no longer on the series due to conflicts with the contract and stuff. Needless, that being said, to now have a series that seemed like it's going to be a labor of love from the guys that actually were there from the very beginning of the journey on the series, I'm really hyper excited about. I mean, you see me ran off a tangent off on the stories because as a kid, you know, you remember the characters and the cartoons and the superheroes that kind of you were all about as a kid, you know. So to see them revisit this but older, and one thing I gotta say is they're trying to make a more mature version for the fans that grew up with it, and that's what I'm looking forward to. A more mature telling of it. You can still keep a lot of the campy, goofy stuff. It's Power Rangers, but I would love to see something a little bit more intense with the original characters. It doesn't have to be like the rated R one that they put to YouTube. It doesn't have to be, even though to me, I like that a lot. If you could have did that with the original cast, I love it. But a lot of people were dying in that. But as the Elseworlds, I love it. But to continue the story, if I don't mind if they cursed. But again, I'm not expecting it. But a more mature version of this, I'm so all in for. And David Yost has been writing it as Quantum Continuum, where they continue the story about what happened to all the Rangers after the fact. The Yellow Ranger, Tui Tran, rest in peace, who had passed. Her daughter's supposed to take up the mantle of the Yellow Ranger. I would love to see how that's going to be handled, because I think if anyone's going to handle it well, outside of me, of course, but I would love to write a treatment for it. But I would like to believe that David Yost would be able to do right by Tui. And I think that would be so great to see all of these guys back together again. And personally, I don't want to see JDF in it. I'll be honest with you. I don't want him in it. Because anytime you put JDF into it, it becomes all about him. And no one gets shine. I haven't seen these characters in years. I see JDF all the time. I mean, he'll always pop up and always be the greatest. He's having his own movie. That's what's up. I want to see the original Rangers show up. Of course, I want to see JDF in it with the original. He's part of the team too. But I don't want to see him because he tends to take up way too much writing, way too much story and plot point. I haven't seen Zach yet. I want Zach to get shine. Jason's at least been able to come back. But I like to hear storyline around him as well. But I don't want it to take up the whole thing. So I hope that David Yost writes it in such a manner that if you want it to, everybody has an even keel of a plot points, personal arc that goes back to the original thing. Then bring in the Green Ranger at the last episode. I'm cool with seeing him if it's 8 episodes, I don't want to even see the Green Ranger until the very end. And I think that'd be cool because he's always around. I just think that whenever you put him into it, he takes up way too much of the story. He just does. And I don't want to see the other characters to the waistline. I want to see what happened to Billy when he went off world to Aquitar. Does he have kids? I want stories. I want plot points that extend. I think the yellow, the black, and the red ranger to take up most of the time to explain what has happened to them since the Power Rangers. If not, Zach and the new yellow one, that's supposed to be Tui's daughter, even more so. Because Zach hasn't been there since, and I think the only thing he was able to do was lend a fucking voice to a fucking villain, which came up somewhere, which pissed me off because it's like you had access to him, and he looks good at his age, looks very good, and he's very athletic. He's like a world salsa dancing champ. I think maybe more than once over, if I'm not mistaken. The dude is still out here, and he looks good. He could still perform a lot of his stunts. Let him give him a story arc that at least could say that plants his flag in the ground that he's been here. I would love to hear that he was a ranger elsewhere or something, and use like the suits from that they didn't use for the White Ranger from that Sentai footage, and say he was a ranger elsewhere. That would be cool. Level him up. He was second in command for a reason. Do something with them characters. Kimberly, she's been around for a long time. Do something with her. Say that she's been a cop or something. Like, I don't know. Just do something with these characters that maybe she was another ranger elsewhere too. Or the fact that, maybe she was with the Red Ranger. That's what a lot of people are trying to run this game now. That they ended up together since JDF ended up with Kat. Which, wasn't she a real cat to begin with? But that's neither here nor there. You know what I'm saying? That's how she started off, if I'm not mistaken. But that's my point. I just want them to develop these characters and handle them seriously like you would with JDF. Now, let's get into the 30th season special, which they're actually doing, which is going to be for Netflix, which is supposed to be separate from Quantum Continuum. That's something that David Yost is writing. But I don't know if that's what they're going to use for the 30th anniversary, if you will, of Power Rangers. But Netflix so far it seems that that's a given, but we haven't had confirmation that the actors are actually signed and on board too, because I know one of it was because of the SAG restrictions. I know the Red Ranger went back to do it, but Zach was very adamant about, if they're not going to meet my requirements because he's part of the union, then he's not going to do it. They don't hire SAG or actors of the union. He's in the union, and that's why he hasn't really showed up. And this is why I want them to level him up. You brought back Adam, and he always wears Zach's suit, which to me, that's Zach's suit. Even though he was a good person, because I think I liked Adam. That was my next Ranger, because he could really fight. I liked the character. I just didn't like him as Mighty Morphin Black. He always, to me, was in his shadow. So I would like to see them really go out of their way to give them closings, give them personal arcs, and give them like real closure and fill in the blanks for where they were all these years prior. That's what I'm actually looking forward to. So with that being said, let me know what you guys think, and are you excited for a possible return with Quantum Continuum, or just the Netflix 30th anniversary of Power Rangers. And we're going to stay tuned to this, and we're going to do a lot more talk on Power Rangers. As you can see, I could go in a little bit. I mean, I'm not Ranger Nation in it like a lot of other Ranger channels, though, even though I enjoy watching you guys' channels. But we're going to really continue to follow the developments on this and do some speculations, and hopefully we see Bulk and Skull, which I'm sure they're going to bring back, and hopefully they bring back Zornon in some sort of fashion. But I really look forward to finding out how they bring this all to a close, or to a satisfactory end cap. And I hope this won't be the end for the Power Rangers. I hope every now and again they could come back and do some more work on the Netflix series. From what I understand, Netflix may be ending all the Power Rangers from Sentai all the way up, and this probably is going to be why they're bringing back the original cast. But they're also, from what I understand, starting a brand new franchise, brand new universe with brand new Rangers with their own lore and not using Sentai footage, and that's going to be very interesting moving forward as well. With that being said, let me know in the comments below what you think. Are you excited for the Power Rangers coming back, or possibly Quantum Continuum? Or both? Leave it in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe. See you next time, and as always, I'll have a better outro. Chill.